We are about to be streaming in 5, 4, no, sorry.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you see us, Cindy? I see it. All right, we are officially started. So I just want to thank you for being here on today. And as I said earlier, before we went live, we always start our meetings off with a prayer. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. Actually, you know what, Lady Swan, why don't you lead us in prayer today?
Did I know you was gonna do that?
Well, I'm gonna respect. I know respect. I respect office. And actually, it's funny. I have an elder and a lady on first lady. But leading lady, I'm gonna ask you if you would lead us in prayer.
It would be my pleasure. With our heads toward heaven and our eyes closed, Father, we come before you this evening as humble as we know how, giving you all the praise and all the glory. God, we ask that you be in the midst of us on tonight as we have this discussion with Sister Latonya Naylor, our school committee member, God, that we love and we support. God, we ask that you be with us tonight throughout this entire discussion. Let somebody be informed, educated, empowered, and let us be inspired to move on and lift up your name, to give you glory, to do the things that are right in our community, with our children, with our families, with the world. In Jesus' name we pray and we say amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for being with us. For those who don't know, this is our February virtual meetup for Parent Villages, and our guests on this evening are Lady Cynthia Swan of the Women of the NAACP and LeVar Click, who just wears so many hats that I'm not even going to try to remember them all. But most recently, Chief, I'm giving you a promotion, Chief. Aide to the mayor and a coach indeed, as well as a very active mentor in the community. And so I just thank you both for being here on today. I also have with me the lovely, lovely ladies that I work with regularly every day. And so our co-founders and our regional director are here on tonight. So I want to just give y'all an opportunity to introduce yourselves, and then I'll wrap up my introduction and go into my update, and then we'll go right into our panel if that's okay. So Cindy, I see you to my left.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Cindy Gaynor, treasurer and co-founder of Parent Villages. Thank you, Lady Cynthia Swan and LeVar Click, for joining us. Super excited about this conversation. And I'll be in the chat on both Facebook and on Zoom.
Thank you, Cindy. And Paige Monroe.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paige Monroe. As you know, Monroe, I'm Latonya's mom. I'm also a co-founder for Parent Villages, and I want to welcome you for today for the panel. And I'm looking forward to hear what everybody has to say.
Thank you. Latasha Newell.
Hi, my name is Latasha Newell, and I am an honorary board member. And I basically my role is I actually don't live in Springfield, Mass anymore, even though I was born and raised there, but I now live in North Carolina. So I am an educator, so I do bring that portion to the board, and I'm just excited to see what we learned today. So thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Tiffany Rufino, our regional director.
Yes, hi everybody. Tiffany Rufino, Regional Director for Parent Villages. I echo everyone's thanks to you, Lady Swan, and also LeVar. Good to see you again. Thank you guys for being here with us tonight and presenting and speaking on very important topics for the community to hear about. So I'm just excited to get into the conversation.
Thank you so much. And so before we get into our panel conversation, which is really going to be centered on the fact that it is Black History Month, right? And so many times we talk about the history of Black people and all the things that have happened in the past, but we specifically carved out these two individuals because they're not going to necessarily tell us about the past per se, but how do we continue to move forward as a people, as a community? How do we make sure that we're empowered? How do we make sure that we are engaged in whatever way that we can find ourselves to engage in? So I look forward to hearing that conversation. Before we get into that though, I want to give an update. So for those who don't know me, I'm Latonia Monroe Naylor, and I am school committee member at large here in Springfield. And we have some really interesting times with COVID. Right now, we are seeing things happening as far as our school districts are concerned across the state, where a lot of kids are really not getting what they need, right? Because they're in a very stretched situation, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure being in remote learning for a lot of districts. But what you may not know is that as of yesterday, the governor discussed some plans to move forward and start to move kids back into the schools, regardless of what the districts are planning and when the districts are planning to bring the kids back. And so I wanted to make sure that I said that, because I also want to make sure parents are aware of MCAS testing that is going to be, as of now, still mandated this year. And so the expectation by the state is that we will still have MCAS as we've always done it, that kids who are in the 11th grade or 10th grade or 9th grade, that they will have to take the MCAS to graduate, just like years ago. The kids who are in 12th grade right now do not have to take the MCAS to pass if they haven't passed it yet and get their diploma, but the kids in 11th grade do. And that's a huge issue because they didn't get a chance to take MCAS yet. Last year, because of COVID, they didn't get a chance to take MCAS. And now we're expecting that by next year, all of them will have had to take it or they will not get their diploma, which is really a travesty. So I wanted to say these things because a lot of times the districts get blamed for things that are not in our control. And so what we have to do is educate folks that even though it's not in our control or my control as a school committee member, it is still within your control if you are willing to get up and advocate and willing to do something about it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen. And I want you to, let me stop for a second, go back. I gotta make sure I pull the document up. I'm going to share my screen because I want you to see some resources and information that everybody should be considerate of. And we will make sure that we do share this with you all. So everybody should be able to see my screen. Can you give me a thumbs down if you can't see my screen? Okay, great. So everybody should see my screen. And what I want you to see is that, first of all, and we'll post this in our chat and we will post this in Facebook and our social media, there's a form for you to complete if you would like to be a member of Parent Villages, if you would like to partake in the work that we're doing, if you would like to be informed and just included on any work that we're doing to advocate for our kids and for our community. And so that is going to be very important for you to do. The other piece is this: we need to contact the Board of Education. Most of the time people think, let's go to the school committee member and tear down the walls and the doors to the school committee and City Hall. But let me tell you something, this is a matter that the Board of Education is working on, and we need to make sure that they hear us and they hear us loud and clear. So what I'm asking for y'all to do on today is to, and again, we will provide this information to anybody that wants it, but we can email the Board of Education directly and let them hear our concerns regarding the MCAS, our concerns regarding our kids going back to school on a quick phase-in schedule that's out of the control of our districts and not allowing our local government to decide how and when we plan to bring our kids back in a safe way for our staff and for our kids. And so I'm giving you this information because it's public information, and a lot of people don't know that you can go and attend these board meetings. They are public meetings and you can attend them. You can hear what they're saying. You can have testimony and do speak outs if you request it and stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that we can do that a lot of folks just don't do. And so this is why I'm bringing this information to you. The other thing that I want you to be aware of, so these are board members of the Board of Education. I'm not going to show the pictures to you right now, but if you go and take the honor of looking yourself, you will see the lack of diversity in our board. So I want you to take very close attention to that, because a lot of times if people are not coming from our communities, then they don't necessarily understand the struggles of our community. Now, there is one individual whom I know cares deeply about education, and his name is here, Mr. Michael Moriarty, and he's from Holyoke. And I've worked with him in the past in other capacities, and I do know that he cares deeply about the education of our kids. And so I would say to you, it's important that we reach out to the Board of Education and share our concerns, because sometimes you have a few voices that are speaking out regarding concerns, but there are a few voices. You have to have a majority vote for things to move forward. And so I think it's very important that we do consider this and are aware. I also want folks to have their attention brought to the fact that we have an education committee at the House of Representatives. So here's the information on our education committee. Alice Hanlon-Peisch of West Wellesley is the education chair. The vice chair is Stephen Oltrino of Malden, and here are some of the members. As you can see, there are no members from this region on the State House of Representatives Education Committee. So again, this is why we have to reach out, and we have to make sure our voices are heard, because again, if they don't come from where we come from or live where we live, they don't understand our struggles. So we need to make sure that they hear from us. And last but not least is our State Senate Education Committee. Now, you'll see here that we do have somebody who's local, who's on our education committee at the Senate level, and that is our Senator Adam Gomez, who is definitely a supporter of our community and a supporter of kids and education. So I will make sure that this information is also posted so that people can reach out to him and email him. Again, like all of the other boards, there's one person trying to push an issue that they care about. They need to have people reach out. They need emails, they need letters, they need phone calls, because then they can say, I had 150 people call me and this is a concern. Now, if one person, little old me, is reaching out, or one organization, Parent Villages, is reaching out, that's not a big pull. But if we can get 150 people, 250 people, 300 or more, whatever that number needs to be to make it happen, then we make sure that our voices are heard. So I wanted to, I'll definitely make sure that that information is available to everybody. And Cindy, I'll share it directly to you so that you have it, so that you can share the document as well, because that might be the easiest way to post it and folks to have access to it. It's so important that we take this serious and understand the complexity of the issue, but also the implications of it. I'm a mom of 4 kids who are in school right now, remote learning. I will tell you firsthand that my kids have struggled, and I have one in particular that is struggling very badly. And it's not because the school doesn't care. It's not because the teachers don't care. This is a difficult environment. So we're all trying to figure it out. We're all trying to navigate it. So I want to preface that by saying that I completely understand the challenges, but I also understand that if we try to force people into going back to school on a intense schedule, or just saying, hey, everybody has to be back 5 days a week, then that's going to be a problem as well. And not only does it damages the transparency and integrity of the school district, because we've had town hall meetings and we've had surveys, and parents have filled out surveys and they've let us know what their concerns are. But at the end of the day, if the state comes and tells us we have to comply with certain things, then we have to comply, and that is an issue. So I want to make sure that we are having our voices heard, and that the state hears everybody who has a problem with that just as much as I do, because at the end of the day, they need to understand how these implications are going to be affecting the rest of us, and not just the teachers union going out there, not just certain groups that always advocate, but everyday people who are going to feel this and understand the challenges and want their kids to be successful. So I'm going to be quiet at this time. I know I said a lot. I don't even think I breathed in between sentences, but I'm just so upset, but passionate at the same time. And I swear I understand the value of getting our kids back in person, because like I said, one of my children, she's struggling. She's struggling, but I also know that it doesn't help her if we force her back into school and we force her teachers back into school and they're not ready or able to be there for whatever reason. And then she still doesn't get the education she deserves or the support she needs. So it needs to be a fair conversation and not a forced hand of power. And the only way that we can ensure that there's equity across the board is if we fight and if we make sure our voices are heard. So if does anybody have questions or comments about that?
I kind of do. You really impassioned me, because I think more importantly, the reason why I'm here tonight is because I also am a parent. Although 4 of my 5 children have went through the Springfield public school systems and graduated, and they're grown adults. Well, they're adults now, but I still have a 13-year-old out there, certainly during this time. And it's been difficult, but I guess I don't know if my mentality is the same or reflects a lot of the other parents out there. But first of all, let me say this, Sister Latonya, I really appreciate everything that you just said, because a lot of times we don't know what we need to do to advocate, properly for our children. But you just gave us, you just spelled it out, real clear for us. So I definitely want to participate in that. So I definitely want to, get that information out to my network, to those people, even in the faith community, that I have influence with, or whatever, so that we can, call Adam Gomez or call whomever that needs to go back to the state government and represent us and represent our voices. So definitely thank you for that. But I do want to say this, as a parent, I really don't care what the governor or anybody else have to say when it comes to the safety and well-being of my child. So, I'm willing to, fight the government, go to jail, do whatever we need to do if we are fearful that our child will be entering into an unsafe environment. Now, I don't know if Sister Latonya, but I've experienced COVID-19 myself, and I'm just now in recovery. So that certainly impacted my whole family, because just before I got sick with COVID-19, my mother died of COVID-19. So it's been mad hysteria for my whole family, losses, sadness, we're depressed, we're grieving. And then they were concerned about whether or not I would make it, or whatever. So we got to take all of that into account when we're planning reopening schools, or whatever the case may be. Now, it's information out there too. And this is probably, I went the long way to say this. It's information out there too that that more children are contracting COVID-19, and more children, younger people, are dying from COVID-19. So that's one thing. And then there's no vaccine for children and young people. I have a grandbaby that is 2 months old, and she's had to be tested already 2 times for COVID-19, and has to go again to be tested for COVID-19 because of exposure issues, or whatever the case may be. So, nobody's gonna force us to do anything that we are concerned about, so our voices do need to be heard. And thank you so much for being an advocate, and thank you so much for giving us that information. And I want you to know that I'm committed to helping to get people to sign on, sign off, make phone calls, send emails, do whatever we need to do, so that they'll pay attention to, what's going on over here on the western part of the state. I know we get ignored and neglected a lot, especially when it comes to stuff like this. But nevertheless, I want to make that plain, and I want to make that heard. So no governor is going to tell a parent to send her child back to a school if she doesn't feel safe in that school. And as a Black woman, I do need to say this too. Lord have mercy. Help me, Jesus. But I do need to say this too. Sister Latonya, and I think you probably heard me say it, but I didn't necessarily like what they was providing in the school system for my kids anyway. And to be quite honest with you, my 13-year-old is receiving a better education right now. I know that some kids are struggling, but my 13-year-old, because of his awkwardness and because of his social, his social behaviors or whatever the case may be, he's actually doing better now. He's actually doing a lot better. And so that's a group of kids that we can't forget about. And so I want us to remember those kids as we move on. Like, everybody is not in a hurry to get back to that school building. Some of us kind of like what's been created, although under, very unusual, hurtful circumstances. Some of us kind of like what's being created and what has been created for some of our children and family members and so on and so forth. So let's not forget that part of the conversation as well. But thank you so much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk that much, but thank you so much.
No, it's fine. I appreciate it. LeVar, did you want to add anything to this conversation?
Since
Yeah, please.
uh,
One thing I wanted to say though, LeVar, before you talk, is that Cynthia, this is something you may not understand or know about either, is that the governor is saying full in person. Right now, we have hybrid options across the state and we have remote options. What he's saying or proposing is nobody's at home. So that means the kids like your son and you saying, look, I have a situation where I can't risk my child going out and I want my child to stay remote. They're trying not to even offer that as an option anymore. So this is the bigger issue too, is that never mind them wanting the kids to go back, they're saying you can't choose to stay home. So there's a funding issue, because if parents decide not to send their kids to school at all, then that means they don't get counted in the numbers, which means that could affect our budget ultimately, right? Because I'm always thinking long term. But the short end of it is, now you're basically saying these kids will not have an education. So you're forcing the hands of parents and you're going against their civil rights and liberties to be able to choose what's best and safest for their own families. That's ridiculous. And so that is why I think, adamantly, we have to continue to protest against this and advocate to make sure there has to be some type of compromise that will allow our kids to be safe and our kids to get back in school as soon as possible. But we have to be aware of and concerned about the reality that this is a serious situation. So I just wanted to make sure I added that piece in, LeVar, so that you are aware as well that this is something that is brewing, that they don't even want to offer a remote at all.
yeah, and to my good friend Cynthia Swan, who's definitely a preacher's wife, when they get up and say it won't be before you long, but truly love her dearly, love her and the bishop. But yeah, definitely, I just want to echo what Lady Swan just said. Latonia, thank you for really bringing that information. I was not aware of that. I really wasn't aware. So what my job now is, the information that you provided to us tonight is basically, again, to bring it back to the community, to our networks, and really advocate, because that is not so. That should not be so. Because I was notified maybe about a month or two ago, and they gave me an option. Whereas, do you want your kid to go back a hybrid or full? And I chose hybrid. Not once did they come back and say, we're going full, or what you're indicating. So for me as a parent, that's unacceptable, because I was not notified. I didn't know anything about this. So that's totally unacceptable. And I'm highly upset about it. And the information I'm going to obtain from you, and I'm going to do my part with making phone calls and or emails and spreading the word that this is not acceptable. We will not tolerate that here in Western Mass. So thank you again for sharing that information. And I am floored, because I was not aware.
Thank you. And I tell you, had I not, I was away for a few days, didn't go far. I know I was just out of my house, so I felt like I was on a vacation. My mom came over for a few days, and my husband and I stayed in a hotel for 3 days. But
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right, I was relaxing, enjoying my time. And then I got a message from somebody saying, did you see this? And I looked and I was like, oh my goodness. And it happened so quickly that we still weren't officially notified as a school committee of it. It's just, if we were looking and reading the newspapers or following up on updates, that's how we became privy initially to this information. And so to your point of being floored, I am too, because I'm like, we spent months trying to come up with this plan to phase in kids in a certain way and talking with staff and educators and trying to make sure we could figure out a happy medium as much as possible, because there's no way we're going to please 100% of the people. But if we could get the majority of people to feel safe and a majority of people to feel like they got what they needed to do for their family, we were going to be okay. But to then now turn around and say, oh, by the way, we want them all back by April. That's less than a month, 6 weeks. No, I can't even fathom. And I want to know, like, I know personally that we've changed the ventilation systems, upgraded the systems. I know personally that we've got PPE gear and we're going to have all this stuff for the kids and for the face masks and all this stuff and shields for people that need them. I know this personally, but you all don't know that because we haven't even had a chance to continue to share this information with everybody, because again, we had a phase-in approach. So I think taking the influential power and the decision-making power away from the local government, who knows their communities best, is really an abuse of power. I'll be completely honest. And so to your point, yes, both of you, like you said, let's, as much as possible, continue to call, continue to get the right information, continue to make sure that they are aware that we're not going to tolerate them just deciding to do whatever with our kids. And let's move forward and come up with the best decision that's going to be equitable for our kids to have the education they deserve.
Sister Tiffany had a question, Sister Latonia.
Yes, Latonia, I was gonna ask, what's the time frame for when official decisions are being made? Like, how quickly do we need to make sure that we get this information out to everybody and that we make sure they have the right contact information? You know, because like you said, April is essentially a month away. So yeah.
So they haven't, as far as I know, I haven't seen an official date. I just know that based on what I read, it was saying that the governor is calling for a return by April, and that the commissioner was also in agreement with certain parameters that the governor was requesting and may have fed into some of those parameters, which, so I don't know, like I said, all the detail, because we haven't received an official memo yet. And I imagine we'll have a school committee meeting tomorrow. So this is probably going to come up in our school committee meeting tomorrow, where the superintendent will provide more detailed information for all of us to understand what we're dealing with. But the MCAS situation was already on my radar and something I wanted to talk about. And then this just happened. And I was like, oh no, we got to make sure that they understand that this is not okay. We are a gateway city. We have a bunch of kids of color, and it's not okay for people who don't look like our kids to make decisions about what is going to happen with our kids and for our kids. We need to all be able to be a part of that conversation. So let's sound the alarm. Let's make sure that those that are willing to advocate for us have what they need and are equipped with what they need. And like I said, Senator Gomez, I had a call with him a few days ago, and I informed him of some concerns I had. And he said, just get me the letters, get me the info, get me the emails. He said, I need as much as I can get to be able to go back to this board and say, hey, this is what the issues are. This is what we're asking for. This is what we need. And he can only do that if we give him that information.
So I have a meeting tomorrow with the NAACP, and I'll definitely bring this to the NAACP as well, so that we can use that network to send emails to Senator Gomez.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't mean to still like all this time.
No, this was perfect. This is perfect. You know, what you all are doing with parent villages. This is what it's really about. You know, it's impromptu, it's spontaneous, but it's necessary. You know, so this is what it's really about. I just said this yesterday. I consider myself to be awakening. I'm not woke yet. I know a lot of people say, I'm woke, you know, and all of this, you know, or whatever. I'm awakening. And you just showed me once again, that I'm awakening. You know, I got 2 master's degrees, and I still don't know all of these different processes and how to effectively advocate and how to effectively, you know, speak up, or, you know, let my voice be heard, or, you know, for my children, for my family, for myself, for my community, or whatever. It's tricky business, but this is what this is about. This is what everything is about. It's about justice. It's about equality. It's about what's right. And this is not right. It's no way this could be painted as right. This is wrong on so many levels. This is wrong.
You're absolutely correct. And I think it kind of segues us into our panel conversation. And definitely if folks are asking questions through Facebook, and if anybody has questions about this, we can definitely circle back to this. But I want to, as I said, ladies first, so I'm going to ask Lady Swan, if you can just talk a little bit more about the women of the NAACP. Talk about the work that y'all have done. And I would say the progress, because we saw more people vote this year than a long time. And I'm not just talking about the presidential election. I'm talking about even prior to that, because of a lot of the work that y'all have been doing. So can you talk a little bit about that and how you're going to continue to move forward and all that good stuff? Anything else you want to add, share?
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I'm honored, and it's such a privilege to be here with everybody tonight. I don't know who's out there in virtual land who can hear me, but I love talking about having an opportunity to talk about WIN. WIN was reactivated. It was a spontaneous thing. Myself and Sister Ayanna Crawford, I don't know if y'all know her or not, but I'm sure most of y'all do. We was talking, maybe a couple of years ago at the Lift Every Voice series, and we were saying that we need to do something around voter education, around voter registration. We needed to do something here in our locality, and then COVID hit, and and when COVID hit, we kind of was thrown off track a little bit, but nevertheless, with everything that was happening under the Trump administration and so on and so forth, we kind of came back together, and we said, let's go ahead and do something. Let's go ahead and create something, because, some of our people are still misinformed. Some of our people are still miseducated about the process, like they didn't know about the primaries, for instance. That's just the example of what we was facing, last year in 2020. And so what happened was it was organic. Of course, y'all know that my husband is the president of the NAACP. I'm also a member of the NAACP, and there was a couple of women that were in the NAACP that wanted to, certainly work with us, to bring some programs and events to the community. And so it was a perfect marriage. And so what we ended up doing was reactivating an arm of the NAACP, which is called WIN, Women in the NAACP. So the acronym is WIN, W-I-N. And so we woke it up. We woke up that arm of the branch, of the local branch. So there are other committees, certainly, on the branch as well. You have education, political action, we have legal redress, and so on and so forth. But now WIN has become like the largest committee and probably the most engaged and active committee. We work with all other committees as well, and we certainly get behind the branch in totality as well. But we hit the ground running, Sister Latonya, as you know. So, events and creativity was just kind of awakened, and we started doing some registration programs. We started doing some education programs, and we started working with not just voting or voter information and registration, but then we moved on to the census. And so I think our committee managed to bring some programs about the census that educated and informed us in a way that we had not ever been educated and informed about the census before. So those were all successful programs. And so we're still been moving. And so we've also had political forums, as you know. We also, again, using those creative juices with these women that's on this committee, these amazing women. They are amazing in their own right. Trust me, this is not me. This is a group of amazing women who made a conscious decision to join the NAACP and to work on the WIN committee that have, so we're putting our collective power together, just like a whole lot of other Black women all across the country. And I just want to give us a little, heads up because of what we did with this year's election. Well, the 2020 election, if it wasn't for Black women organizing and protesting and doing what we did, rolling our sleeves up, or whatever, we would not have, we wouldn't be in the political position that we in right now. So, we thank God for the hard work and sacrifice of Black women everywhere. But nevertheless, so, producing programs, producing events, doing things to inform, educate. We even do a little bit of agitating. Bishop pushes that, whoever, we agitate to legislate, we agitate to legislate, and we certainly try to inspire, in all of the things that we do. But nevertheless, we're still doing some of that work. We haven't been out in the public. We haven't been outside. We've been doing primarily 99% of our work has been virtual, but we're still doing forums. Like we just had another forum on vaccine information. As far as I knew, we was the first to do it earlier on. Earlier on, we did the vaccine when they first started the vaccine. We did the vaccine informational forum, and we just did another one, and we will be adding to it depending on how things work, how things are going with the vaccine and with COVID-19 next month. So we have another one scheduled for next month. And then we also have our Women's History program. It's the first of its kind that we are producing and planning for March the 27th. We're also doing some recruiting programs where we are recruiting and enrolling people into the NAACP. As everybody should know, the NAACP is the largest civil and social justice organization in the world, not just the country, but in the world. It started in 1909, and no other organization fights for Black people like the NAACP or has a reputation that the NAACP has. And I'm just gonna brag just for a little bit. And my husband is definitely an activist. He loves Black people. He loves his people. I've seen him sacrifice himself, sacrifice his whole family at times. At times, okay, y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, sacrifice his whole family at times, to advocate, for Black people, to advocate for justice for Black people. So we understand that a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, so we understand that. So I just want to encourage everybody to get involved in some kind of way. It don't have to be big. We're not trying to win no popularity contests. This kind of work, you may most likely you won't become popular, but you will feel a need, and you will get something done. And so, even those little small things meant something to somebody. As far as like the Black history goes, I'm gonna tie win into Black history just for a second, and I'm gonna bring it local. So my mother-in-law, Dolores Swan, was an activist in her day. A lot of people think that my husband get his activism from his father, or maybe my Uncle Ben, and people like that. My husband get his activism from his mama and his grandmother. His grandmother taught him the Bible, and his mother taught him the streets. So she was, she used to be Ray Jordan's campaign manager. She's done a whole lot of things, but her activism is what's most memorable to me. I wasn't around then, but I read it and I've heard about how she brought the breakfast program here, to Springfield. And those programs still exist today that she brought here to Springfield. How she was boycotting, the buses, the school buses, how she was in Boston, how she was on Shirley Chisholm's team. She was trying to push Shirley Chisholm to become president. And as a matter of fact, if you look at Shirley Chisholm's documentary, you'll see my mother-in-law in the front row at the Democratic Convention. So it's all kinds of, right, it's all kinds of history and around us. But I've learned that when I came into my own activism, you know, or whatever. Like I said, I'm awakening. I've been behind the scenes for a long time. I'm not used to this public persona that's being created. I'm not used to it. I still get nervous. I'm nervous right now. My heart is beating fast because I don't want to embarrass nobody. You know, I don't want to embarrass nobody. You know, so my heart is beating fast, but nevertheless, you know, there's a heartbeat. There's a call to activism, you know, and so you don't have to be Martin Luther King. You don't have to be Shirley Chisholm in order to make a difference in your community. I believe that every Black person has been called to activism. And the reason why is because we are the people that's the most oppressed. You know, I'm not saying that oppression doesn't exist anywhere else, but we are the people that's the most oppressed, but we are the people that got the fight in us to eradicate oppression, to eradicate injustice. I believe that. I believe that we was born to fight. And I believe that we was born to win. So, so now, as the chairperson of this amazing committee that's in the NAACP, that's our motto now, pack for the win. So we want to pack for the win in everything that we do. And like I said, I want to encourage everybody to find your little niche, find your little thing that you can do. You don't have to create a program. You don't have to head a committee, but if you support a committee, if you bring materials to the committee, if you get signatures, all of that stuff, if you make the phone call, if you write the letter, listen, if you tell your neighbor, you know, what's needed and what's necessary, if you inform your neighbor, you know, or whatever the case may be, if you tell your neighbor the truth, you know, about, you know, what we need in our community, or how to vote, or get them registered to vote. It's millions of things we can do to wake up our activism. So I want to encourage everybody to wake up your activism. And if WIN is not doing anything else, I pray that WIN is inspiring other people to wake up and to do their activism, to wake up their activism. So.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, that was just so great. I'm over here sharing and doing all that, tagging people so they can catch it, because this is some good stuff. Thank you for sharing, Lady Swan. And LeVar, we're gonna let you jump in on action. So talk to us about what you're seeing happening, and even kind of piggybacking off of where Lady Swan has taken us in this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of piggyback with
Did we lose them?
I said already, basically, I'm really, can you hear me? I'm really,
No, we can.
really shy and to myself. So again, I do my work behind the scene. That's where I'm most effective, and I believe that's where the real work gets done. I'm an advocate for, I stay in my wheelhouse. So my advocate is for young people. So I really try to empower our young people to stand up for themselves, social equality, all these things that is important to the body, not only the body of Christ, but to the body of our community. Really just trying to empower them, because they're not the future of tomorrow, they are the future of today. So we got to make sure they're empowered and they know what's going on. I really didn't know about social justice and all these great things that has been going on until I got older. So I was telling a group of 7th graders today at Veritas that, you know, I didn't learn this stuff till I got older. So it's very important that they have all of these Googles and these smartphones and all these great tools to them to really have this information to them right handy. So there's really no excuse for them to not to be informed. So we didn't have that. I told them I had the AOL dial-up, and the internet was hard for us. You know, if you didn't come from a political family or your family wasn't in the trenches, you really didn't know about what was going on. At least I know I didn't. Speak for myself. I didn't know. Yes, my dad was very active, but listen, I didn't know about it. I was too busy playing basketball somewhere. You know, so but now I bring that back to my family, and I tell them these things that's going on, and I sit down with them every Sunday. We have our Sunday time, and we talk about things that's going on in the community, things that's going on in the world, and hopefully they can bring that back to their friends, and the friends can bring it back to another friend, then that friend can bring it back to another friend. So you're starting a trend. Not only, you know, we do that with our own kids, but again, I do that with all kids that I come in contact with. I try to share with them something daily, currently, that's going on in our world today, locally and also throughout the world. I try to empower them of what's going on and ask them to share how they feel. Again, a lot of times, you know, growing up, we were taught to. We weren't asked how we felt. So again, it's empowering our young people to speak out, stand out, and be heard. I've seen a lot of that going on in the city of Springfield, which is great. We have a lot of young leaders that have stepped up, and I'm grateful to see it, because again, my generation, we weren't doing that stuff. We were too busy playing basketball, which is great, don't get me wrong, but we weren't being active in our local government and getting a group together to talk about social justice issues and Black Lives Matter, all those great things. And I'm just excited about, I don't look at all things as negative. I look at it as a positive, because now, again, as I'm a coin Cynthia Swan, as I'm awakening. You have awakening a sleeping giant, and that's our community. So I'm excited for the push. I'm excited for everything that's going on, because that's keeping us aware. That's keeping us on our toes, as you want to say. And let's push forward. Let's push forward. Let's be together. The one thing I want to see us to be is to be together. Togetherness is the key. We cannot do this divided. We cannot do this separate. We cannot talk about this person and that person and then have your own cliche and have your own group. That stuff is nonsense. We have to be together. We have to show our young people to be together. We can't say we're being together and then talk about the next person and then you trying to bring a group together. That's phony. That's fake. That's fake. If you have a problem with somebody, we ask that you just go to that person, pick up the phone call them. Stop all this social media stuff. Call the person directly. And that's what I'm trying to teach our young people. Be real. If you have a problem with your brother, no, we're gonna talk about this. Y'all not going on social media. We're gonna talk about it. Back in the day, we'll close the doors. We're gonna fight it out. We can't do that now, but we can talk about it. So that's the key thing. I want our young people to be empowered. And I try to stay in my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is young people. I try not to branch out to all these different things. I try to do what I do best. I'm a coach. I try to coach. I use basketball as a carrot to get them in. Once I get them in with basketball, then I kind of teach them a different things. Being on time, being accountable, doing your schoolwork, applying for college, different things. And then again, we can talk about social. We have to get them to trust us. We have to let them know that we're there for them. And these kids will do leaps and bounds. So that's most importantly. And again, Latonia, I thank you for even having me and for considering me to be on this panel. Again, I'm inspired. I'm committed to the city of Springfield. I love my city. I'm born and raised here. I don't want to leave. I love Springfield with all my heart. I bleed red. As you can see, I'm at Commerce. And this is I want to put this out there. This is one of the private schools in the city of Springfield. And it's a travesty because this school has so much history. And these kids at this school don't get the support that is definitely needed in the city of Springfield. I'm going to say that on the record. And I'm going to advocate to the day I die for this school in the city of Springfield, that we get the same resources that the Centrals get, the Putnam gets, the SciTechs get. Commerce need that same support. We have a gymnasium here, and I'm going to stop. We have a gymnasium here that these kids come into every day that don't have a logo on their floor. We got the padding. One color is red, the other color is brown. And these kids are asking me, what's going on, coach? What's going on, coach? Listen, it's the way they treat us. That's my only answer. But I'm still going to advocate and I'm still going to fight for our kids in the city of Springfield and more specifically at the high school conference.
Thank you, LeVar. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything that you said. One of the things that I want to highlight that you said, I was like typing it in the chat. You said that we are our awakening. I love what Lady Swan said about the awakening, right? Nobody's arrived. We're still in the process of arriving there, right? And so we're still learning. Every day we're supposed to learn. And if you stop learning, then you might as well just go on and leave here because there's nothing more for you to do. Learning is a growth process, right? And so we're waking up a sleeping giant, and you're absolutely right. Our community is a sleeping giant. And I remember growing up, and we didn't do this because we didn't have to. We were comfortable. We have more than enough nonprofit organizations, more than enough after school programs. Anything we wanted to do, we could do. And then we graduated, and then all the funding got cut. And then next thing you know, here we are in the situation we're in now, where our kids don't have enough, and there's inequity. So I do feel like, you know, if no other time, then now is the time. And to continue to press the issue, teaching our kids how to advocate for themselves. I was just telling students the other day, you have a problem, do come to us, speak out, speak about it. Tell your story, tell how you feel. Send letters to the school committee, send letters to the superintendent, let them know how you feel. Because if we don't talk, nobody knows what we're thinking. Nobody's reading minds around here. We don't have superpowers. So tell people what you're dealing with. Tell people what your issues are, and let people know that you're not going to accept this. And I remember there was a group of students that came to a speak out one time from Commerce, and they got up and they talked, and they said exactly how they felt. And they told the story that LeVar is telling, that they felt like, you know, they didn't get the support and all this other stuff. But one of the students said, but I chose to come to Commerce. I chose because my mom came, and I chose because of the legacy and all of these different things. And so it was at that point that she, you know, they wanted to share their story and their concerns. And so I literally was crying sitting up there. And I reached out to the students the next day, and I set up a time to go meet with the students, and they started to share with me their concerns, the stuff that, you know, the ways that they feel that they're not being heard. And we started to talk about strategy. What can you do as students to make sure that your voices are heard? And so I think, you know, LeVar, as you continue to talk to your students, remind them that they have friends that sit in other places. I don't want to say high places, because I'm never that. I don't get proud. We know that pride comes before a fall. So I try not to get to a place of pride, but I do want to say that I sit in a place where I know a lot of people and have access to different folks who make different decisions. Even if it's something out of my control, I know somebody that may have the power or ability to be able to influence the law, the policy, or what have you. And so I think the more that we can get our kids in those spaces to have their voices heard, then the better off we're all going to be. So I want to just thank you, and Lady Swan, just for taking the time out. I'm going to be quiet. I know that we're at our hour. We try to stay around an hour and not to keep you over that time frame. So if anybody else from the board would like to chime in or have a comment, and then we'll have closing words from LeVar and Lady Swan. Nobody? Okay, I'm just checking. I talked for everybody. I do that a lot. So LeVar, do you want to say any last words?
Yeah, I just want to let everybody know. Again, I'm here for the city. If you need anything from the mayor's office here at the city of Straithfield, I'm here to advocate for our community, not only our community, but for all communities. If you need anything, we're here to help, and we're here to assist. You know, that's my job, and that's the goal, is to bring people together, bring it to the table, and hear what your concerns, and not even your concern, what is going well. So a lot of time we always get the phone calls about everything that's going bad. Call sometimes, say, you know, this is going well, this is working, because you never know how that can inspire someone. Because everybody's quick to pick up the phone and complain about when something is going wrong. And quite frankly, I started my own thing now. I get up my daily day, I get up, pray, whatever I got to do. And I made a point to call, not my regular circle, just pick somebody in my cell phone and call them, just to say I'm checking on you. I want to let you know I was thinking about you. That can go a long way. So if somebody would take that same spirit and just try to encourage somebody throughout the week, throughout the day, you don't have to do it every day. but we just try to empower people, just inspire them, because you never know what somebody is going through. You just don't know. You don't know. Somebody could be ready to commit suicide at that point, and nobody knows what's going on. I get it. We're public servants. We're this and that. We're always supposed to be standing upright and all this great stuff. But sometimes, and I'm going to use not because Lady Swan is on here, but sometimes call Bishop and tell him thank you, because he stands in the gap for a lot of people. Call Bishop Naylor and tell him thank you. He stands in the gap for a lot of people. So these are we talk about Black history. We have living legends in our own community that we can support and dig up and support them where they can keep on keeping on. And I'm here to again to support the city of Springfield any way I can. If you need me, I'm just a phone call away, email away, and I'm here to help. I'll do what I can. I don't have to be in the limelight. I can do something behind the scenes, and that's fine with me. As long as it gets done, that's what it's all about.
Sorry, I was taking a picture. So I can post it to our page. Thank you so much, LeVar. I appreciate those words. And I know you don't like to say a lot of words, but when you do say them, it's definitely powerful. So I thank you for the gems that you shared on today. And I know so many young men, and specifically young men, that really are they give you a lot of honor and respect for the time that you've put in with them, and that the love and care that you've shown to them. And I can't tell you, I'm just gonna be real, I can't tell you all the number of kids that have asked to be transferred to Commerce because they wanted to be with LeVar. Like, I want to be with him. Like, he's awesome. I know he's going to take care of me. He's going to make sure I stay on my toes, do what I need to do, So, and I absolutely want to say that. And then I also want to tell folks, because a lot of people don't know, that there's like 3 different dual enrollment programs at Commerce. There's Worcester State, there's STIC, and there's Westfield State. And so you can go to Commerce and get an education in college at the same time that you're in high school, and so that's something that's unique. Some of the other schools do have dual enrollment, but not 3 programs for you to choose from, not to that extent. So there's a lot of things that are offered at Commerce that people just don't know about. They don't promote it enough. But, if we don't invest and listen to our kids and listen to the staff that are there, we're not going to know the gems that are hiding in the rough, So thank you for everything.
Thank you. I appreciate you. And you always been there. Anytime I pick up the phone, you always came through in the clutch whenever I needed anything. So I appreciate you and your team, Village. And I appreciate your mom too. I miss my mom dearly. It is good to see Paige Monroe here. And it just brings joy to my heart that you guys are working together. That's awesome.
Thank you, LeVar. I know that makes her smile. And Lady Swan, before we sign off, are there any closing words that you would like to share?
Well, just like Brother LeVar said, now y'all got to remember, I'm a preacher's wife and I'm a preacher too. So, but I'm gonna try to keep this short. But it is 3 things that I want to just kind of leave you with, based on what I just heard my brother say. Number one, when he talked about unity, us coming together, I want to reinforce that statement and how important it is. One of the things that I've noticed in my awakening, right? In my awakening process, is that racists will stick together. They don't let nothing divide them. White supremacists, white nationalists, savages, all of them groups will stick together. They don't let nothing divide them. Nothing. I think we're the only community that forget about all the things that we have in common, and we let the smallest little thing divide us. So, the words that are in community is come in unity or commune in unity. It is critical. It is critical. So let's not use that word so loosely. Community. You say you're advocating for your community, then stick with your community then. Work together. Understand there's a ministry in working together. There's a power in coming together. So that's really important. That's one thing that he hit in my spirit. Then the other thing that he hit in my spirit that he didn't say, but he told the story of. And so a lot of people are like, well, I'm not an activist. I can't be an activist, da, 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 da. You can be an activist in your own spaces and places, and you're supposed to be. So just like Brother LeVar said to us that, you know, the school that I coach at, my students feel neglected, my students feel underserved, my students feel like we don't get the support and we don't pay attention to them, you know, like we should, you know, as a community, you know, and so on and so forth. That's activism. That's exactly what that was. That was activism. You notified the community of what the needs are of our children at Commerce High School. I got clients at Commerce High School. I have people there at Commerce High School. I had a daughter that went through Commerce High School. So, you know, I got history at Commerce High School. Even if I don't now, I still got history at Commerce High School. I want the love to spread. That's part of the community. That's part of the community. And I want to end with this. Parent villages. I'm trying not to get emotional about this. But when my mother died, and then I got sick, I really learned the true meaning of village. People came out the woodworks, and people that I didn't even know liked me, cared about me, or anything like that. That was my village that surrounded me, that surrounded my family, that kept me up, that brought me back to health. So there's such a power in village. We can't do anything. We can't do anything. We can't survive. We can't live. We can't thrive. We can't progress. We cannot advance without a village. We need our village, and we need to play a role in undergirding, in building, in empowering our village. So now that my village, I get it now, LeVar. I don't know if I got it before, but I get it now. I get it now. I lost the love of my life. I lost my mother. She was my best friend. And I know you know what I'm talking about. You know, I know you know what I'm talking about. So to lose my mother and not really get the chance to grieve her, and then go into the illness myself, and my family panicking, my husband panicking, my husband thinking that, you know, I can't lose my wife, or whatever. It was our village. And I ain't talking about just family members and relatives. It was our village that came in, dropped off chicken soup, sent the cards, sent money. I didn't have to spend a dime when I was in Dallas burying my mother, Sister Paige Monroe. I didn't have to spend a dime because people were just sending me money. And to help me with the cost of staying in a hotel, because you couldn't stay with family. I couldn't go. My mother died of COVID. My family had COVID. It was horrible not to be able to touch family, not to be able to hold family and grieve in that way. It was horrible, but people were sending money. It lightened the load. So I just want you to know that Parent Village, there's such a power in just saying the name. It's such a power in just saying the name. And I appreciate you. I appreciate your staff. And I'm really gonna be praying for the success of this organization, and that you continue to be led and certainly guided by the help of the Lord.
Well, y'all got us speechless over here.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I love that. And as you was talking to LeVar about his mother, I lost my mother too. So it, all of that just came back. And with my mother being gone, it does take a village. And that's also how we came with Parent Villages. And like, our mission is to bring everybody together so that everybody can be educated on whatever it is that they need. And I really appreciate all the gems that came out tonight. I really appreciate this session. And I just love you all. God bless you.
Thank you, Mama Page. Tiffany, did you want to say anything in closing?
No, I was just echoing that, I'm left speechless as well. You're both very inspiring. Thank you so much for your kind words and just for being here with us tonight and for supporting Parent Villages and uplifting the work that we're doing. Again, I think we're showing community, like LeVar talked about, true community here. And I just hope that we all in our spaces continue to do so in a genuine way so that we can really come together as a Black community here in Springfield. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Cindy or Latasha. Cindy might have had to jump off and Latasha just jumped off. So, okay. Our time is up. I can stay on with y'all all night because y'all you have to, the iron sharpeneth iron, right? We all know that. And we are all iron in our own way, and we have to sharpen each other. We have to work together. And, those of you that are listening to us out there,
Excuse me.
Yes.
Latoya is on. Is there anything that she would like to say?
I assume she didn't because I know how she is. But
I'm just giving her a chance.
She can.
No, I just enjoyed everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Latoya.
Okay, First Lady Swan, that's another one of my daughters right there. Okay.
I see. Right. I don't know Sister Latoya. I don't have the pleasure of knowing her, but I'm looking at her picture and I'm like, oh, that's Latoya's twin. That's her twin.
We look like triplets when we're all together. Yeah, me and my sister, both of my sisters, we all look just alike. So God gave us the right mother with the wrong names, Latonia, Latoya, and Latasha. But that's another story for another day. But I do appreciate the time, and it's went very fast. And so I want to let everybody go in respect of your time. But yes, please continue to join us. Those of you who are listening to us, tune in. You've seen a lot of links be posted. We ask that you sign up. Let us know if you want to join us in this fight against this MCAS and all these other transitions that folks are making decisions for us regarding our kids and our community, things that we need to speak up for and about. And remember to contact the WIN and the NAACP, reach out to LeVar Click at the mayor's office and give them a kind word and let them know that they're doing a good job and stuff like that, because it's necessary when folks do well to tell them. And of course, when things need to be criticized, and we do that too, but let's send some kind words. So with that, I'm going to close, and everybody have a good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone, and God bless.